I am Sarah West. I'm Director of the Stockholm Environment Institute at the University of York, and I am involved with TAPAS's focal area, which is focusing on dissemination and communication. And I'm stepping in for Paul today because he's somewhere exciting overseas. We are very pleased to be joined today by Valeria Pensabene from Camden Clean Air Initiative. And her talk today is on Camden Clean Air's approach to working with schools. So a little bit of a background to her. So Valeria is part of the advisory committee and works as community manager at Camden Clean Air. And her responsibilities include managing the schools programme, which is all about organising large events such as green economy focused careers fairs and sustainability events, school assemblies and STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts and maths days, as well as structuring workshops around Camden Clean Air's flagship projects, including the Airscape network of real-time air quality sensors and also building indoor air quality purifiers with air rated. And she spends a large part of her time organising borough-wide initiatives such as the annual Camden Clean Air Cycle Ride and the Eco Champion Awards, which is a prize-giving initiative to celebrate residents who go above and beyond to protect the environment. So we're really excited to have you here with us today. Thank you so much for coming. So feel free to share your slides if you have any when you are ready. And as I said, everybody, if you'd like to put comments into the chat screen as we go along, then we'll take them all at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm about to share my screen now. Give me 1 second.
Fabulous.
Can everybody see it?
We can. Thank you very much. Yes.
Excellent. So thanks for the introduction, Sarah. My name is Valeria, and as you said, I'm the community manager at Camden Clean Air, and my colleague Georgina, our program manager, is also in the audience today, I think. Thanks everybody for coming today to listen to this presentation, and firstly, thanks to TAPAS for inviting us to be part of their lunchtime seminar series. This presentation is in 3 parts. In the first, we explain what we do and present our projects. In the second, we look at the rationale behind what we do, and last, we outline what we think is our unique model. So who we are and what we do. Camden Clean Air is an ambitious not-for-profit action group aiming to improve air quality of air in the borough of Camden. We were founded 2.5 years ago at the height of the pandemic, when obviously there were no cars on the road, so air quality improved dramatically, and obviously it was a very difficult time in many ways, but from that point of view it was excellent. So we were formed by a local entrepreneur who wanted to try and maintain the progresses made at that time, and through our work we're really trying to tackle pollution and most importantly, try to spark behavioral change. So we're now going to take a look at our school projects. At the most basic level, we offer primary school assemblies on indoor and outdoor air pollution. We tailor these to the age of the children. We start at reception level, obviously we continue up to year 6, and we ensure that they are as interactive and accessible to the young ones as possible. We actually find that the children are much more knowledgeable than about the climate crisis that one would expect, and we try to offer them the means to take action and make tangible changes rather than just spreading doom and gloom. So we offer them solutions such as, well, primarily changing the way they go or get taken to school, which is probably the more relevant change to make, but also encourage them to create eco committees, or turning off the lights at school and at home, recycling more, and really try to empower them to make the right choices. After all the assemblies, we then provide the teachers with resources and follow-up material. So it's not just that we appear for the assembly and then disappear. Another project that we've done a lot of work on is the Camden BLine, which is an amazing project we've co-delivered with an organization called Think and Do, which is sponsored by Camden Council. It aims to increase green space and biodiversity across the whole borough by creating a connected pollinator pathway of trees, plants, and rewilded spaces. So we've started to do this with schools. The plan is to, then move on to other entities such as community centers and businesses, anybody really who's got any outside space. And so far we've turned concrete and paving into a Camden BLine at no less than 37 schools. So that's a decent number that we're quite pleased with. The other project that we're very proud of is CAPS, which stands for Community Air Pollution Sensors. It's a project that was sponsored by Google. With the help of People Power, which is a social enterprise that organizes technical courses on renewable energy and sustainability, courses aimed at secondary school students. So last winter, we delivered a series of pilot workshops to 2 Camden secondary schools where we had 60 Year 9 students, and they got to build their own portable air pollution sensors. In the first session, they learned about pollution more in general and how it affects the environment and why it is important to track it and contain it and ultimately try to eliminate it. In the second lesson, these students built their own portable air pollution sensors, and by that I mean they assembled them, they wired them and soldered them, which was interesting. And the sensors, were going to remain their own, so they stayed with them at school. Therefore, they were super excited to see that they worked. Primarily, that was the huge success. And the whole series of events concluded, and then the third session was about coding. And the whole series of events concluded with an evening reception at Google, which was super exciting for the children. And hopefully they'll remember it for a long time to come. We'll say more about this because we are now working on phase 2 of this project. More recently, we've started delivering another type of workshops to Camden secondary schools, where we present to students the AirScape Air Quality Sensor Network. I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but this is a network of 227 sensors that AirScape installed last spring with our support and that of Camden Council. And it currently makes Camden the densest network in the world. Prior to the launch of AirScape, Camden only had 6 big reference stations, which again, I'm assuming that you all will be familiar with. Those are, very large reference stations that provide excellent real-time data, but they're expensive and they're expensive to maintain. So they were too few and far between to really cover the whole borough. And so this is a real game changer in that sense, because with 227 sensors, you generally have one about every 200-300 meters on light columns. So what we have now is an open access monitoring network on an online platform that provides real-time data on air quality across the entire borough. It provides past and present data, and it can highlight high-risk areas. Obviously, one can map one's own journey, much like you would do on Google Maps, and you can compare data for NO2, ozone, and various size of PM, minute by minute and street by street. So what we're doing with these workshops is obviously we're aiming to teach the students how they can use this information in their daily life, how to make better decisions, such as, most obviously using it to help choose safer roads to walk or cycle, or embedding the science and the data in their lessons, which really can be done in virtually all subjects, not just STEM subjects. And on the same line of thought, we're also planning workshops on indoor air quality. This is increasingly a topic of concern in schools and in mainstream media, because we tend to spend the vast majority of our time indoors. And we all have a part to play and see, how indoor air quality affects us, and again, most importantly, what we can do to improve it. So we are collaborating with a company called Air Rated, And we've come together to, again, to try and involve the children more, aerated, support us in a lot of these events that we organize. So with a similar approach to what we did with CAPS, the students will be taken through 3 sessions consisting of an introduction to indoor air quality. Then they will be building air purifiers, low-cost air purifiers, and you know, they'll make them work. And the 3rd session will be about analyzing and understanding the results of the better air rating obtained after purifying a room. So all of these examples that you've heard until now are very much an outline of the very practical work that we do in schools. But we work on, you know, 2 very well-defined trajectories. One, again, is more practical and hands-on interventions, whereas the second type of activities that we do is mainly centered on education. So our education work takes us a bit further away from pure clean air focus. We, you know, tend to spread our wings more widely here. However, we believe that, you know, in order to kickstart behavioral change, especially with school-age children, it's important to talk about a variety of things and not just limit ourselves to pure clean air work. And ultimately what we want to do is kickstart this behavioral change from the grassroots up. So examples of this second type of work that we do are the sustainability events and career fairs. There are 2 very similar, quite similar events that we organize, but you know there are some differences. The sustainability events are opportunities to bring together pupils, parents, and sustainable businesses to showcase innovative solutions and opportunities for climate action. So they're typically similar to a business fair, an interactive meeting of like-minded individuals, but obviously for students and parents who are looking to make a tangible impact on their environmental footprint. So last year we hosted one where we invited a number of companies to explain either their core sustainability mission, if they had one, or what they are doing to become more sustainable. And they range from, you know, National Grid to Tesla. We had various e-bike rental companies, but also we had a rewilding and an invertebrates charity. We had cleaning companies that use only organic products. We had sustainable building companies and retailers fighting fast fashion. So quite a variety of businesses. And we're now organizing another one for the beginning of March 2023, and it's aimed at year 7 and 8 students. The career fairs instead are obviously career fairs, so as such they're aimed at older students, more like years 11, 12, and 13. You all know how career fairs work. They're more of an avenue for students to hear from a range of sustainable businesses about what they do, the technology or processes they may be developing, and in particular, the future career opportunities that they offer, because these are new jobs by and large. And so, you know, any student will have thought, oh, will I be a doctor? Will I be an engineer? Will I be a lawyer? Not everybody will have thought, I want to be a sustainability manager. So it's interesting to discuss all these jobs, the skills that are required for these jobs. These are students that are either in the process of choosing their university or you know, still developing an idea of what career they want to embark on. So these fairs have a particular focus on work experience, and apprenticeships and internships where available. And our approach to working with schools is very much about being as unencumbering as possible. So we ask them to provide the setting and access to power and the internet, and for the rest, we take care of everything else. And you know, we're really trying to be as helpful as possible with schools that tend to be already quite stretched. Another big event that we organized last October was the Future of Green Tech. This in itself, the Future of Green Tech, is an event series that has been going for more than 2 years, but previously we were only holding it online, whereas last October we organized a large whole day business event, again at Google, which is again one of our biggest supporters. The aim of that was to share knowledge and stimulate debate and really try to propel ourselves into a new era of environmental action. Its goal is always to raise awareness on the issues of climate change, and with a focus on industry leaders and the sometimes extraordinary things that they're doing. This year, however, we had 2 programs running concurrently. One was for the adults and one was for the students. And as we said, it was live. So while the adult program looked at transport and future cities and tomorrow's living, we had a concurrent schools program, which was attended by 45 students from year 7 and 8. They were coming from 4 local state schools. And we focused on 3 aspects. One was indoor air quality with air rated. So they built an air purifier, like you can see in the image there. The second was campaigning against plastic. And the third one was how to handle eco-anxiety. So we had a team of psychologists to come and talk them through that. And then we organize STEAM days, which, well, again, I assume most of you will be familiar with those. They're typically held at secondary schools. And as part of these, we don't run them exclusively like the other events you've heard about until now. We're usually part of a wider group of organizations that go present to students about scientific topics. And therefore here our work is a little bit more heavy on the data side than what we do in primary schools, and it's also more interactive. So, for example, we'll go and get the students to work on the airscape network and on the data from that, and we'll get them to plot their route or really get them to get their hands dirty with the data. And more generally, when a school signs up to become a Camden Clean Air school, we send them a welcome pack through which we share resources and support material. So we have things as varied as a walk to school planner or bingo, a guide to purifying air plants that they could choose to put in school, environmental class tasks, a list of renewable versus non-renewable energy sources, and a list of a chart on how to keep track of what their environmental achievements that week. And we also have an extensive array of other material on ways to be more sustainable, such as the ones in the images here, guides on how to be more sustainable in fashion, in food, and in recycling that we share on demand with schools. That's pretty much it, as in what we do directly in schools, but as in my part of going in and delivering work, and we think it's already quite a range of activities that we offer. But we also install charge points at electric vehicle charge points at schools. We are huge supporters of active travel to school. So our first choice is by far active travel, as in walking or cycling or scooting. But if somebody has to, or public transport, obviously, but if somebody has to drive, then probably best to use an EV rather than a diesel car. So again, trying to encourage that, and we partner up with electric charging companies that will do that for free at a school. So it's our job to try and connect businesses at schools, as we've seen before. And again, active travel is a big thing for us. So we regularly share material and ideas on how to make moving around more sustainable. We really push for initiatives such as No Car Tuesday, which is a push for parents not to drive to school one day every week, as opposed to only once a year. Most schools will only do a walk to school week sometime in May, whereas obviously giving up driving your kids to school every week would make a much bigger difference throughout the year. It may be that depending on where everybody here lives, we find that driving to school is not a big issue in most state schools, but it's actually a big problem in places with a high concentration of private schools, as is the case in parts of North London, parts of Camden. So we're very familiar with that problem. Then, as part of our attempt to foster a more circular economy, we have something called the Community Coffee Project, whereby we connect coffee shops to donate coffee waste to schools and gardens and other community centers that can use it as a fertilizer. Again, we are not only trying to encourage recycling and reduce waste, but also encouraging businesses to connect with their local community. And then we have a large array of community events, primarily, as you mentioned before, the Camden Clean Air cycle ride. In 2023, we will run our third edition. Last year, we had 350 people take part in this 27-kilometer ride around the borough. It's a non-competitive event. Very much the purpose is getting people on their bikes in central London, which a huge number of people are very scared to do. They just, when they hear that the roads are not closed, they just very often they refuse to take part. But the council has installed a high number of cycle lanes, and it's they're perfectly safe, and the safety in numbers as well. So we're really trying to encourage more of this, and we're also trying to organize a school centre tour de Camden in collaboration with the council, where roads will be closed on a school day to try to encourage children to cycle more. Also because there's an awful lot of children who just do not cycle, do not have access to a bicycle, and have not been taught how to cycle. So again, the more opportunities to give it a go, the better. And the other big event that we organize every year is the Camden Eco Champion Awards. It just happened last Saturday for 2022. So it's a celebration of the amazing environmental work that 3 categories of people do: children, teenagers, and adults. And we give prizes to reward them of their efforts. So in that picture, you've got the young girl to the left is the winner from this year, then the mayor of Camden giving their awards, and the winner from last year in the picture there. And it was a huge success, we're proud to say. So we're in the local news today, and we're delighted with the turnout. So the rationale behind what we do is, I think it's probably clear by now, but we try to involve the community, and especially schools, in everything that we do. We try to make sure that our offering is entirely free, but also, as I said before, as unencumbering as possible. And all the schools have to do is just bring their students along, maybe do a bit of background work to prepare them, but not much more than that. This is not to say that we are so charitable and so great, and we do not ask for anything back. It's not just one way type of work, because we do rely on schools ourselves for things like nominating students, but also other adults to the Eco Champion Awards, or participating in events like the cycle ride, buying tickets for the various events such as the Future of Green Tech. So none of this would be possible if they didn't take part. It's not just about putting the money and our effort into it. It's very much about fostering people power, in the sense of collective strength of communities. We want to get them involved as much as possible on any project that impacts their livelihoods and really matters to them. For example, that is access to air quality data that empowers the community to make better choices. Too often, these choices are made by the council or by the authorities without co-design from the citizens. So sharing the result of any research study or survey or set of data means that we can give people a voice, and ensure that again, they could get involved in policy changes or traffic management decisions, or anything that has to do with public realm improvement. And we connect it with what we call tech for good. I'm sure it's pretty clear from what I've said until now that we use the use of data is very important to us, and that we want to allow the public to access it and share it as much as possible. The technology is there, and most of us are now very familiar with a million different forms of the sharing economy. So why not ensuring that environmental data is used as tech for good, with the clear and unabashed purpose of informing people's everyday choices and to engender a social benefit, a deliberate social benefit. So we call it tech for good, and probably the best example is the one from the Airscape network, of course. And ultimately, what we want is, yes, we want to empower people to have a voice and contribute to choices. But we also want them to be accountable, because at the end of the day, we want to be able, we want people to be able to make their own choices, but we want these choices to be sensible and not just to be there to to benefit just a few. We want people to make good choices that they are accountable for and that benefit the whole of society. In this context, so we act as a voice for the community, both discussing their concerns in front of the council or other organizations. So, for example, we recently discussed the use of leaf blowers with one of the schools that we cooperate with. This was a concern that their neighbors had raised with us, and we went and sort of mediated with the school over this. But we also want to build the confidence of people to speak up. Too often people complain and they actually don't direct their disappointment in the right direction, or to the right people. So we remind them of all the instruments at their disposal, which could, well, first of all, it's about discussing at home and at school, and forming pressure groups, and taking grassroots action, but also the instruments that we've long had at our disposal, such as writing to the media and talking to local councillors and their MPs. Lastly, we take a brief look at what we think is our unique model. There's many organizations in our space. It's a very busy space, and populated by many other organizations that share a lot of the same goals. But we think we are quite unique in the sense that the other organizations that we come across are either volunteer-led and limited in their resources, such as your typical grassroots pressure group, or on the contrary, they could be sometimes very well-funded, very structured charities that they have much better means than we do. However, we find that they're often regulated and not always free to work with whoever they choose. So we try to stay somewhere in the middle of that, and be as nimble as possible and lean through our partnerships with businesses. Yet at the same time, we offer access to the companies that can support Camden schools and their pupils in more ways than one. So a couple of examples, this includes supporting organizing, all the events that we've just discussed, or provision of indoor and outdoor air purification technology, or VOC-free cleaning products. Often these companies match donate. So, say if a school buys an air purifier, they will get another one for free. And obviously companies also very often offer us volunteers to run many of these events. So it's important to have volunteers to run a big cycle ride through central London, and more clearly they offer financing. So our key purpose, as you can see, we are in the middle of all of that. We try to be a go-between, connecting the community and particularly schools. So the schools are obviously part of the community, but we put them on in their own category, with the council and businesses. The way we see it, the community and schools have very specific needs and generally speaking, they're more receivers of funding and services. And the businesses, on the other hand, are more givers of technology, know-how, and obviously funding. So 2 examples are the work that we are doing at the Chalcots estate, which is a large council estate in the north of the borough, where we've been talking to the residents to understand their needs regarding the redevelopment of their underground parking area, which is in quite a state of disrepair. So we've been dealing with the council's project management team. The council are obviously both the freeholders and the regulators. But we've also been dealing with several businesses that will provide the design, the expertise, and the workmanship when it comes to choosing the layout and carrying out the project. But we really want to make sure that the residents of this estate are involved in co-designing what they want, because you know, one could deliver the best product, and then it's not what the residents had in mind. So trying to be in the middle to deliver the best possible product whilst pushing our own clean air agenda forward. An example number 2 is the CAPS project, which again we've already talked about. But we took what we did there was taking the educational need of schools, partnering with People Power, and connecting it with Google. It just simply wouldn't have happened without us connecting the 3. So the pieces were there, but they needed connecting, and you know, CAPS was only possible thanks to the help, practical help, and the financing from Google. And happily, Google has just approved the financing of, well, first of all, they financed the whole pilot project, which was amazing. But also now just approved funding for phase 2, where we will develop the offering, and we'll try to scale it up. So try to make sure that the workshops, in fact, I should say, get scaled down in a format that the teachers at schools should be able to deliver themselves, therefore for a much smaller cost per workshop. And we hope to this way to be able to deliver it to many more Camden schools. So we are very much at the end of the presentation. We have a favor to ask. You know, it's all well and good with our connections with companies, but if you do know of any businesses that might want to improve their community engagement and their green credentials, please you know, connect us with them. We're very keen to become the London Clean Air Initiative and move beyond Camden, and we're very much only limited by lack of staff, which is also known as lack of financing. So any help there to deliver more projects would be most welcome. Please subscribe to our newsletter, and this way you'll be kept up to date with everything that we do. And yeah, just stay in touch. And I'm now going to be opening it to Q&A.
Wow, thank you so much, Valeria. That was, somebody's also said this in the chat. This is so inspiring, and do you know what, it just gives me such a lot of hope that, you know, like, you're working in those community projects with the next generation, who are going to be the people who make change, right? Young people are going to drive the changes that we desperately need to see in the world. So yeah, I particularly liked you talked about the collective strength of communities and how you're bringing the communities, the schools, the businesses, who are obviously also part of the communities, all together. It's just fantastic. I'll just start going through a few of the questions in the chat. Thanks everybody for popping them in.
Do you want me to stop sharing the page, or shall I leave it up there?
Well, if you just leave it up just for 1 more minute so people can grab your details, and then you can stop sharing, that would be lovely. Thank you. So Kathy, I don't know whether you want to unmute yourself and read out your question, or if you'd like me to, but yeah, if you want to unmute Kathy and read your question, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, that was really interesting. Thank you. I was just wondering how you managed to get in touch with all these different organisations, or find the different organisations that you're looking, like People Power, Airscape, Aerated.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Actually, I couldn't hear very well.
Yeah, sorry. I was wondering how you managed to get in touch with the businesses that you were working with, like People Power, Airscape, Aerated. Not how you managed to get in touch with them, but how you found them in the first place.
Well, it's a lot of research and a lot of talking to people and connection. So, you know, an organization such as People Power was word of mouth, but you know, businesses, it's very much a question of researching them and often cold calling them if we don't have a direct connection into them, and you know, going to pitch to them. So we have a partnerships executive, and but to be honest, we're a team of 4 people, so we all get involved in selling what we do. I guess you can say that you know, I as a community manager in charge of all of that we've discussed until now, I'm more responsible for creating the content that we sell. But again, everybody gets involved in it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And Christine, I don't know whether you'd like to read your question out or whether you'd like me to do it for you. Just unmute, Christine, if you would like to read it out.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to, I joined late. I'm sorry about that. I wanted to have a put my microphone down. That might help. I wondered if you had a list of the schools that have that are taking part in your Clean Air Initiative, Valeria.
Sure. Yeah, maybe if you get in touch via email,
Great.
I can.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Valeria, maybe if you could stop sharing your screen now, thank you, and so we can see you a bit bigger. Fabulous, thank you so much. Dave, would you like to ask your question?
Certainly. First of all, what an excellent presentation and superb work you're doing. I'm very impressed, and so thank you for that. As I look at the various crises, the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, I don't think we're anywhere near terrified enough. I would like everybody to be so terrified that we all take immediate action. And my question is, we want the children to act. We want them to be concerned enough to act, but we don't want them to be so concerned that we give them mental health problems. So do you have any thoughts on how you handle that balance?
Well, I think our approach in general is, I mean, I understand and share the spirit, you know, they've just described, but our approach in general is trying to stay as positive as possible, because we don't think that scaring everybody off will yield the results that we want. So whilst we don't, you know, underestimate the seriousness of the situation, particularly with children, you know, you need to definitely give them hope and you know, practical solutions that they can get involved in. But that's why during the Future of Green Tech, we engaged with this organization called Climate Psychologists, that, you know, be happy to share their details, but you can Google them. And you know, they are an organization that will go into businesses to do climate work, and they get paid for those workshops. And then with the money that they make from work with businesses, they finance their work, their free work in schools, where they really try to work on unbottling the anxiety that the children feel. And obviously, I don't want to get too psychological myself into explaining how it's best to handle it. But, you know, from our point of view, we think that, you know, being practical and giving them hope is the best. And also, you know, a lot of kids, rather than just being frightened, they actually try to ignore the problem. And that's also not the right way to approach it. So again, we try to engage them with practical solutions and making them feel that even in their small everyday life, they can make changes. Tangible changes.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Thank you. Just another comment from the chat screen. Somebody says, so impressive and very inspiring. They have to leave for another meeting, but incredible work, which is really nice, I think. And yeah, totally. Dave, you have another question. Would you like to ask your second question?
Oh, well, I feel I'm jumping the queue, but thank you. So yeah, I'm part of Northampton Town Council's Climate Change Forum. We're in the process of looking at different hardware options for monitoring in the town, and also trying to come up with criteria for locating, where should we be locating these limited resources. And so I'm not asking you to answer that question now, but is there a document that you found helpful or that you have that you could share that might help us think through our options?
I don't know, Georgina, are you maybe better placed than me to answer that question?
Hi, yes, I've literally just jumped on though. Was the question about air quality sensors and sort of trying to understand where to start with companies? Yeah. Well, I don't have a document, I can tell you that is the short answer. But I mean, we worked with a company called Air Labs to do it, because for us, I think it depends what you're trying to get out of it. So for us, the key was density. So you needed low cost. So that was kind of how we narrowed it down, because there is quite a range of different costing sensors. So that worked specifically well for the project that we were doing, and the company themselves wanted also to achieve this density. So I can send you over some kind of different information, but I think there's lots of different ways that you can tackle a monitoring project. And for us, the key was that density, because we wanted one on every road, essentially, so that people could understand what that data was, the air quality was for what they were breathing, right outside their house. So that's how we sort of narrowed it down. I think as well, it I guess depends on what you're trying to do with that data as well. So I think maybe if you want to, I'm happy to share my email. If you let me know what it is that you're actually sort of trying to achieve through the air quality monitoring, and then I could potentially suggest some companies that we've come across or worked with. I've just seen yours. Yeah, great. I'll put mine in there as well.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Yeah, great to see this knowledge sharing going on. Thank you, that's fantastic. So our next question, I don't know if you would like to unmute, but is about the types of what you're actually monitoring, and I'm just seeing if okay, so the next question is, are you monitoring PM 2.5, nitrogen dioxide, traffic emission levels, and do you compare with World Health Organization 2021 limit levels?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's not us monitoring them, it's Airscape, but through that, all of that can be seen. And yes, it's NO2, ozone, O3, and PM1, PM 2.5, and PM10. Georgina, am I right?
Yeah, and nitrogen dioxide. So all of the key ones, yeah, monitoring them all. Sorry, what was the follow-up question? I was about to say something and my mind's just gone blank.
It was, do you compare, do they
that was it, yes.
With the WHO 2021 limit levels?
Yes, we do. So on Airscape, when you click on an individual sensor and you see the air quality, there's a line, and then that's what the World Health Organization is. So you can see how it breaches or doesn't breach that.
And all of you can go online and see it even right now. It's airscape.ai.
Brilliant, thank you. If someone could pop that in the chat screen, maybe Georgina, are you okay to pop that in the chat screen for people to have a look at? That would be great, thank you. Fabulous. Does anybody else have any questions? You can either, if you want to raise your hand using the raise hand function, which is on the reactions bit, or pop it in the chat screen. We've probably got another couple of minutes before we wrap up. If not, I have some questions. So I had a question about how the students are using the Airscape data. So those sessions that you do with the students on the data, how do they actually use it? And what sort of, you said that they maybe use it for working out routes to school, for example. And I wondered if you could say a little bit more about how they're actually, maybe how many people are using them, or that sort of thing. Like, what do they actually use it practically for?
I don't actually have any specific data on how many are using it. Obviously, so the sensor network was only installed last spring, and so it's relatively new. And at this point, it's more about getting people to know that it's there, because there's only so much publicity that one can do, and there's so many things that are being offered to take our attention away that very often people don't do it. So the workshops for us are a way to tell students, this is at your disposal, just as much as you would map your route for cycling on Google Maps. Why don't you consider doing it this way? And so it works very similarly, whereby next to the box, to the search box for a particular sensor, one plots the route that they want to do, and it will show what the best one is. The map is color coded. So again, one can see, depending on the colors, where the most polluted areas are, and therefore can choose to avoid them. And yes, during these workshops, we again, we try to teach the students to well, a general introduction to pollutants and the various types of pollutants, because again, not the typical secondary school student cannot necessarily be expected to understand the difference between NO2, ozone, and PM, and what effects it has on our body. You know, they all know that pollution is bad for your heart and lungs, but they don't necessarily know exactly what. So it's important to tell them that, so that they can see, look, in this area at this time, the prevalent pollutant is ozone. So this is what will happen to your body. Obviously, you're not going to drop that on the spot, but this is the effect that it can have on your body long term. And then, you know, again, really very much about empowering them to make the right choices, and consider the various. I think we touched briefly on this. The various subjects that pollution can be discussed from. Sorry, I mean school subjects. So obviously, most obviously the scientific ones, but actually, you know, there's history. One can, you know, talk about the London peace soup in 1952. There's literature. There's actually plenty of literature that not just recently that talks about climate change and you know, pollution problems. There's obviously geography. So quite a few, and there's the arts, clearly. So quite a few subjects that in their curriculum that they could tackle it from.
If I could just add to that as well, I think yeah, Valeria's summarised that really, really well, and I think a key part of the workshops is that we separate the student, like we get them to brainstorm as well. So what we're quite keen is for them to come up with this themselves. So we say, like, this is the data, this is how you use it. Now in groups, can you come up with ways that you could use this data proactively? So you know, encouraging them to think basically through everything Valeria just said, like what different lessons could you use this data in, what practical uses, whether it's, you know, kind of shaming your parents to leave the car at home or make one less shopping trip per week, or you know, all those kind of different uses of air quality data that can lead to behavioural change. And but we really try and kind of encourage the students to be the ones that come up with those ideas.
Brilliant. Yeah, because if they come up with them themselves, they've got more ownership and more likely to actually follow through with them. So that sounds great. Fantastic. Yeah, Eleanor, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. This sounds a really interesting project. I just wanted to ask a bit more about how it was financed. Did Air Lab provide these sensors free of charge, or was this what you got the Google finance help?
No, Airscape is a private company, and they finance the installation themselves. Camden Council provided the know-how and, you know, the support, the logistic support with, you know, accessing the light columns and you know, all the mapping and all the permits that were needed. And yeah, we did. It was mainly Georgina involved in this, but yeah, primarily the project management and the, you know, the business connection between the three organizations. So no, Google was not at all involved in this, although we do offer our partners and any company that we come across the possibility to sponsor an air node, so a sensor, and they can choose to have one installed on their premises. I mean, if somebody wanted to, they could have one installed on their roof and you know, have you know, real-time perfectly located information about their pollution where they live.
Okay, so the first step would be to get in touch with Airscape then and see if they'd be willing to.
Or with ourselves, and we can put you in touch with them, yes.
Okay, all right, I will do that. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you so much. Any final questions from anybody? I had a quick one, if there aren't any. Sorry, I've got chair's prerogative. I get to ask another question. Quick question. So those air purifiers that you showed the students making themselves, was that a Corsi Rosenthal box or something similar or not?
Sorry, say again, a corrugated.
Was it a Corsi Rosenthal box?
Yes. Yes, I think so, and there's obviously a fan, and yes, it's a very simple device that can be built in the space of 40 minutes by year 7s and year 8s, and
Brilliant.
for a cost of under £100.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Thank you so much. Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been fascinating and really inspiring.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you so much.